So this restaurant too that we went to today, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's asking people, have you been there? Food is there as part of the overall mix. Gone are the days when chefs were encouraged to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to create a menu, these dishes that you will not find elsewhere. If you want the emotion, the feeling of having tasted this, you've got to return here, right? I think that is perhaps becoming less and less these days. Hi folks, just an impromptu rant, something on my mind, so I thought I should share it with you folks. So we just had lunch this afternoon. We were actually celebrating a special occasion at one of Bengaluru's most happening restaurant. This is the restaurant that everyone is talking about, that everyone wants to go, that everyone will visit at some point in time. It's that restaurant that people say, have you been there yet? You get the drift, right? The look of the restaurant, the ambience, the aesthetics of the place just blew us away. Easily the finest looking restaurant in Bengaluru. It's a restaurant that you could place anywhere in the global dining stage. It could be a restaurant in New York, it could be a restaurant in London, in Singapore. That's the nature of the aesthetics. You walked in and you said, wow. Right? That's the effort, the attention that went into the creation of the space. So as a result of which, it's got a very happening vibe. There's a certain energy to the place. There's a certain bustle to the place, so to speak. Everybody wants to be there. And when you look around, you will see they're celebrating an occasion. They're having a good time. That outing to this restaurant is special. So that's the ambience of the place. Moving on to the service is friendly, the sort that tries very hard to please, and let's leave it at that. Now when it comes to the food, so the menu here is a collection of various culinary styles. So a lot of Asian dishes that I found on the menu. I found some Indian flavors, some European flavors, something from the Mediterranean as such. Culinary influences from different parts of the world. And so we ordered a few dishes, the baked brie. We ordered for a stir-fried chicken, we ordered the lamb sliders, we ordered the vegetarian taco, we ordered a pan-seared fish, I think it was a snapper. We also ordered for the edamame beans. So the food came to us and we tasted each one of the dishes. It was fine, it was okay, but not really something that was in sync with the ambiance of the place. Right? When you looked at that space and that space really wowed you, you were also expecting the same thing to happen with the food. I must say at this point that we also ordered a cake, and that cake was delicious. It was a dulce leche. So the pastry department or the dessert department out here was extraordinary. But when it came to the other dishes, these were not the sort of dishes that we would crave, where you would remember that dish and go back to that place, right? I think somewhere that culinary philosophy was missing. I think somewhere that menu, which had drawn from different flavors across the world, seemed to lack soul. And I think this is so very different from how restaurants used to be earlier, right? So when you look at the restaurants from earlier times, just to differentiate, let's call them old-fashioned restaurants. These were restaurants where you went for certain dishes, right? The perfect butter chicken, you would go to a certain place. If you wanted a certain dessert, you went to a certain place. So you craved for these dishes, right? You craved for that lasagna, you craved for that bara kebab, you craved for that Rant, and you said, I've got to go there. But I think these days it's not so much about that, right? So for instance, every dish that I tasted here, let's say the stir-fried chicken, I was thinking in my mind, you know, this is fine, but I can have a much better stir-fried chicken at I was having the baked brie and I was like, okay, there's a lot that's happening on the plate with the fig chutney, with the apricots, with the dry fruits and all of that. But I was like, did I find the baked brie a little more satisfying? As I was tasting the pan-seared fish, my mind went back to another pan-seared fish that I tasted, which wasn't as heavy in the butter, which was tasty yet felt a little light. So every dish that I was tasting here, it actually took me back to some other place where I had tasted a better version of the dish. But I think that's the nature of the restaurant business these days. Gone are the days when chefs were given the brief, were encouraged to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to create a menu, these dishes that you will not find elsewhere. You may find similarly named dishes, but if you want that flavor, if you want the emotion, the feeling of having tasted this, you've got to return here, right? I think that is perhaps becoming less and less these days. Not that our chefs are not capable of doing so, perhaps there are many reasons that go into it. Talent is also very difficult to find these days. There's so many restaurants that are coming up. I guess everybody is vying for the same talent pool. But I refuse to believe that chefs, if they apply their mind and their skills, and with all that's available today, they can definitely create a menu where, having taken a bite of a dish, you will remember that and you'll say, okay, fine, I want to go back for that dish, right? But that's not the case anymore. I think these days it's more about creating spaces that wow you, that mesmerize you, right? That's the brief that's given by restaurateurs. That's the kind of space that they want to create. Perhaps it's because they want to make that space so trendy, so Instagrammable, that everybody who goes there, takes 100 pictures, puts it on their gram, puts it on Twitter, puts it on Snapchat, Facebook, and what have you. I think that's the nature of restaurants these days. But there's nothing really beyond the space and the aesthetics of it, the wow quotient of it, that holds you, that connects you to the restaurant at a deeper level, right? You're not really thinking after you've stepped out of that space of that dish that you tasted. So many of these spaces you go to, you enjoy the experience, the vibe, and all of that. And then subsequently, when the next big space opens, people shift there. I'm not saying that this model is not working, because clearly it is, and there are a lot of restaurants that are built specifically around this model. But I think somewhere the charm of creating those menus with those iconic dishes, I think that seems to be getting rarer and rarer these days, right? I'm not saying that this modern approach is wrong. Perhaps that's the need of the time, to create spaces where people feel that if they haven't been there, they're missing something out, right? So this restaurant too that we went to today, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's asking people, have you been there? Food is there as part of the overall mix. It's no longer the main driving force at these new age dining spaces. Well, that's what I think. I could be wrong. So let me know in the comments below what your thought on this is. Are dining spaces today becoming more and more about creating that ambience, that wowness, and therefore food is only one part of it? Or is it something else? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for hearing me out. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.